YouTube. It is 1/3 through the month, and I haven't recorded any video. I don't have any ideas for anything that isn't just this miniature reading vlog, so I think that's all you're gonna get in January. My province is currently under a lockdown, so it is really uncomfortable to be filming when my house is full of my family. My mother is currently speaking as I'm trying to record this, so it is proving to be very difficult. So I thought I would start this video by talking about the 2 books that I've already read this month and the 2 I am currently reading, and maybe I will tell you what I plan to read next. So the first book that I read this month was called A Terrible Beauty by the Canadian author Nancy Baker. I actually own only 1 copy of one of her books. I read this last year. It is part of a duology about vampires. A Terrible Beauty is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that is gender swapped and contains a vampire in it. And an artist is forced to live in a castle with a vampire in order to repay a debt. I thought it was very good. The writing in it was really, really beautiful. It was a very typical, like, Anne Ricean, philosophical, artistic, and romantic depiction of vampires, which is something that I personally enjoy. It was a very short book, which I liked. I gave that book 3 stars, and I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good for what it was. The next book that I read was The King's Men by Nora Sakavic, which is the 3rd and final book in the All for the Game series. I listened to it on audiobook, and I gave it 1 star. Now, I knew every dark theme and detail going into the books, but I still found it very, very unreadable. I could not stand the horrific violence. I could not stand the homophobia of the characters and their treatment. I could not stand how everything was based around a fake sport that had no stakes and no real consequences, because in this book everything got resolved with a snap. I also found the found family and the relationship aspects of the book to not be very satisfying. I mean, yeah, I feel like everyone would like and forgive Neil for what happened to him because he's been tortured and brutalized for the entire trilogy, so I don't think they would just drop him so easily just because of what happened. And the whole hiding his identity thing didn't really work out in the end because he found people who actually like him. So I don't know what the entire conflict was there. And the relationship was basically enemies to lovers, but I don't think they were really enemies. They just grabbed their collars and, hissed really close at each other until in the 3rd book they finally kiss, which I don't think was very, exciting and satisfying. I don't believe them as a couple. When there is 0 trust or affection in a relationship, I don't find myself drawn to it. I also don't like when the only sort of affection that a character can show for another one is by beating up everyone around them. I don't want that. I don't want to read that, and I don't want to see other people experiencing that, especially after both characters had such horrible, traumatic pasts. I don't like seeing that's how they show their affection, or that's how they show their trust. So I really didn't like that series at all. I read it out of curiosity, and it was free. Now, the 2 books that I am reading currently are The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. That is for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, and I plan to film more for that video that may be coming out in the middle of the year. I think I plan to read 1 book from that poster a month, and then we'll put them into 1 vlog, so you won't hear my opinions on that book here. And the other book that I am reading is I am listening to A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness on audiobook. The audiobook is 24 hours long and 1 minute. I'm listening to it on 1.5 times speed, but it's still gonna take me about 19 hours to finish the whole thing. I'm currently only 6 hours in. It's pretty good so far. Nothing really wrong with it, except for a little bit of main character syndrome, and I just... I think it's funny that they go to a vampire yoga class, and I think it's funny that the vampire can only eat raw food, like he's some sort of squirrel. I know they compare him to a wolf, but all I can imagine is him eating acorns like a little rodent. So those are the books that I am currently reading. My next read is going to be pretty exciting. I plan to buddy read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo with my best friend Amanda. So I hope to have both my ideas and her ideas, which I will then relate to you. Stay tuned for that. See how the rest of the month goes. Woo!
Oh, good, you got a picture of this. Oh, I feel really guilty now for not bringing them anything. Those ones are calling us assholes. Oh, they're pissed at us now. It's like, what? Like a duck.
Hello and welcome to my bed. I wanted to make this clip to say that I am feeling a lot better. The first clips that I have here in this video, I was not doing so well, but now I think I'm doing better. I at least, sound more chipper. I sound more energetic. I sound more upbeat. But we are here in my bed today to give all the members of Monsta X and Wonho kisses. I'm kidding. I am here to say that I have started Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And I wanted to have a mini discussion before I started talking about my impressions of the novel as I read it. First thing I want to say is I have never read a novel by Leigh Bardugo. I have heard of the popularity of the Six of Crows and the other series, Storm and Fury, Siege and Storm, Rage and Fury, and the blue one, the trilogy, the one with the Darkling. I have never read those books, so I am going into a Leigh Bardugo book completely fresh, which I think is pretty exciting, because I think a lot of people were hindered by Ninth House because it wasn't what they were used to in Leigh Bardugo's previous writing, especially since it is not considered a YA book. I know Ninth House is marketed as adult fantasy. Now, that usually means that there are more adult themes and that the characters in the novel are obviously adult aged. But everybody's issue with this book is that the marketing was false. It was marketed as Leigh Bardugo's first adult fantasy book, her first adult book, period, but that doesn't seem to be true because it seems like the protagonist is 19. I want to say she's 19 years old. So this should be technically classified as new adult. Now, I understand why it was marketed in that genre because, when you're a 19-year-old, you are, in Canada at least, legally an adult, but there are different, complexities, obviously, that come from being, freshly 19 and only just beginning your adult life versus someone who could be in their 30s who understand the nuances and developments more in a plot this dark. And I know many people have said that it was only labeled as adult fantasy just to have the very dark themes of the novel. I understand that there will be mentions of sexual assault and underage drugs, etc. So people's discussions of that are totally valid. But me going into this novel, I am not going to be convinced by the marketing, and I am not going to be overly hyped up by the author's status, so I'm reading this book completely and totally fresh. Now, my friend who is reading it with me, she is a more seasoned reader of Leigh Bardugo, so if she has any more nuances that are connected to that, I will be relating that as well in the video. But so far, I am 2 chapters in, and I was a little bit confused. It was a little bit dry in the first chapter, but I think that it's starting to become something. I think it will be okay. I'm going into it with no expectations, just a book. It's gonna be words. Looking forward to that. Amanda and I are about halfway through Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not as invested in the story that I think I should be. It only just got interesting, and even then, not really. Leigh Bardugo uses sexual assault casually, and I don't know if I appreciate that. I understand that I am not the type of person to have these nuanced conversations about it. I feel like it's a lot, and I don't think it should be this heavy-handed. Like, I understand Alex is a troubled character with a dark past. It is just a lot. Both Amanda and I have been calling Darlington Walmart brand Gansey. I like the ghosts so far. They are interesting. And I don't know, I'm not captivated. I'm not being captured by the story. People said that the last 100 pages are really good, and I have to keep reading until the last 100 pages to even be interested. The story is not what I expected, but then again, I didn't expect much. It's just, I don't know, lacking. It's lacking something, and I think, I don't know. I am now 70% into Ninth House, and the plot finally arrived. Yay! In about 3 chapters straight, you get explained what happened to Darlington, why we are trying to solve Tara's murder in the first place, and what happened to Alex that led her to joining Yale. It was very confusing. I had a very hard time keeping track of it all, but I think I have the gist of it. Let's see if those last 100 pages that everyone raves about are actually that good, and we will see if the book goes from a 3-star to a 3.5-star. Woo! My favorite thing that my friend Amanda has said about the book is that it certainly is a book. It certainly is a series of pages stapled together with words on them. Oh boy. I think I like the book. At least I enjoy the writing, world building, the way people talk. It sounds alright, but just the events of the book are either very, very poorly executed or too boring to care about. So I hope the ending's good. I expect nothing, and I'm still let down. Relegated to the shame corner. Hello, and welcome to my wrap-up. So this month was a little bit casual for me. I didn't do anything that exciting reading-wise, but I did read 6 books. The first book was A Terrible Beauty by Nancy Baker, which I gave 3.5 stars, and it was a very solid vampire retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it was pretty good. I then read The King's Men, the 3rd book in the All for the Game series by Nora Sakavic, and I gave that one 1 star because even though I knew all about the horrible, dark, violent themes before I started listening to it, I just found it unbearable, and I legitimately cannot understand why anybody enjoys reading them. They call all the kids their children, and they call the main couple their babies. I don't know, it was just weirdly infantilizing, and I didn't appreciate it. I then read the first Hunger Games novel by Suzanne Collins for the first time for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, and it was fine. I gave it 4 stars. It was just as good as the movie is. I had seen the trilogy previously. Then I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I ended up giving 2.5 stars. I have spent days trying to collect my thoughts on this book, and I can't bring myself to. I went in it with 0 expectations, and I still found myself not properly engaged or even understanding of the story. I found that very little plot-wise actually went on. This was mostly just world building and tension building, and the tension was not well executed. A lot of the themes and lessons in this book were handled in a pretty YA fashion. I found that they were too plainly explained, as if a teenager were reading this and examining those themes for the very first time, which should not be the case in your supposed debut adult novel. I mean, the events that took place at the end were really interesting, but they were in the last 25 pages, so I couldn't, enjoy them enough because there wasn't enough. And I don't want to wait a couple of years for the next book to come out. What's the whole point in that? It really blew its load. However, I did enjoy the vibes and the writing. It was very, very well written. I can't deny that. Can't bring myself to entirely hate this. My friend Amanda still doesn't think it is a book, and her thoughts are very exhausted and scatterbrained. So that's all she wanted to share here. The fifth book that I read for the month of January was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. That was a 24-hour long audiobook, and I gave that one 4 stars. I didn't talk too much about it because it's a pretty plain and obvious premise. A witch falls in love with a vampire, and they have to look for this ancient witch book that could possibly explain the origins of their species. It's very romantic, it's very historically based, it's very scientifically based. There are a lot of details, so it was really, really nice to hear on audiobook. The narrator did a very good job, and I am looking forward to listening to the other 2 books in the trilogy soon. They are both 24 hours each as well, so it will take many days to listen to those. And the final book of the month that I am actually still listening to right now is Lifestyle of Gods and Monsters by Emily Roberson. It is essentially the story of Ariadne, Theseus, and the Minotaur in the Labyrinth, but with a more reality show, Kardashian, Hunger Games based twist to it, where everybody's filmed and there's storylines, and it's based on scandals going on in Crete. So far, it is skewing very young. The way that they have set up Ariadne is that she's not like other girls, and the 2 characters have fallen in love in an instant, but I understand that some liberties have to be taken in order to modernize a Greek myth, and for a younger audience, I think that this would suit them more. I think they would enjoy it a lot more. I am saying my wrap up for it now because I feel like I won't have anything more important to say, even though I'm only halfway through the book. So if there are any new ideas, I will put them here in a caption. And that is it. That was my reading month for January. I apologize that the vlog is not as exciting as many other people's reading vlogs, but Ontario is currently under a stay-at-home order, and I didn't want to break any rules, and I didn't really have any ideas to make this video exciting, so I thought just a short vlog would be enough. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click through my channel. There are plenty of other videos that you could check out that you would probably prefer. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!